putting a national lockdown, stay-at-home orders is like house arrest. It's other than slavery, which was a different kind of restraint, this is the greatest intrusion on civil liberties in American history. We have epidemics and pandemics. This is a very serious one, a grave one, but they come and just because something is a medical crisis, it doesn't give a complete blank check to executive rule, which is, yes, doctor, you might be right, but just think of all the collateral consequences and the costs of that. And that is not science, okay? It is the generalist and the people and the representatives of the entire community that should be making these balancing acts. It is not dictated by science. So all this nonsense about how this is dictated, something is dictated by science, is nonsense.
It is Friday, September 18th, 2020. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week I talk to our favorite passenger from Antifa Airlines Flight 012, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. Yes, everybody, that was Attorney General Bill Barr up top, just to indicate where it is we actually are. That's right. That's the hell we're in. That frickin' dude. Whatever. On today's show, Louisville agrees to pay Breonna Taylor's family $12 million in a historic settlement. The city also announced significant police reforms. According to CNN, quote, the city agreed to establish a housing credit program as an incentive for officers to live in the area they serve, use social workers to provide support on certain police runs, and require commanders to review and approve search warrants before seeking judicial approval, among other charges, unquote. The New York Times broke the story last night that the Trump administration is posting coronavirus testing guidelines on the CDC's website against and without the knowledge of CDC scientists. The story broke last night as the CDC expected to post new testing guidelines today. And I believe that they're if they're not up already, they're supposed to be up today. And they are direct from the Trump administration, not CDC scientists. These are the same guidelines, let's remember, that schools, colleges, universities, and state agencies are using to determine their local policies. And a new study published in the medical journal Health Affairs finds at least 42% of school employees are at high risk of developing severe cases of COVID-19. Yeah, remember, in schools, it's not just the kids. There's like teachers and custodians and food service workers and staff members. Yeah. Nothing happens by magic, folks. It's labor. And Hurricane Sally brought devastation and massive flooding to the Gulf Coast this week as the slow-moving storm dumped over 30 inches of rain across the region. In Pensacola, Florida, for example, they saw 30 inches of rain, which is the equivalent of 4 months of rain in 4 hours in Pensacola. That's insane. Insane. Sally was a Category 2 hurricane. Now, Hurricane Teddy, a nasty Category 4 hurricane, and the second Category 4 hurricane of the season, has intensified in the Atlantic. Currently, it's not expected to hit the ravaged regions of the Gulf, but it is testament to just how much energy has been put into their climate by a refusal to address the climate crisis. Smoke from the West Coast historic wildfires has reached the East Coast this week, leading to an eerie sun reminding us that, yes, climate change affects us all. And in unrelated news, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, has a new Trump appointee to help run the organization into the ground. David Legatis, an academic, best known for being a fossil fuel-funded climate denier, an academic fossil fuel-funded climate denier, who was forced out of his position in 2011 as Delaware state climatologist due to his climate crisis denialism. And apparently, Legatis will be serving as the new Deputy Assistant Secretary of Commerce for the Environmental Observation and Prediction, which reports directly to NOAA Administrator Neil Jacobs. When asked about it, the NOAA basically said, he's what? He got appointed where? No idea. That's a significant move, by the way, right? Because he already has an email address to the NOAA, even though he hasn't gone through any confirmation process. And the way that the kind of succession works, if he becomes the number 2, right, that could succeed to that number 1 position, and then Trump decides to fire Neil Jacobs, well, there you go. We'll see. Look at the Pennsylvania region this week. Federal judge rules that Governor Wolf's shutdown order is unconstitutional. Yes, Wolf will file an appeal, and the Supreme Court may strike it down, or may reverse it, but in the meantime, there's real-world impacts, like local ordinance having to be returned, and bars opening back up, and planning for sporting events. That's right. Good news on behalf of the mail-in ballot front, though. Late yesterday, Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that voters will be able to submit their ballots through drop-off boxes in a blow to the Trump campaign and PA Republicans. The court also ruled that ballots that arrive up to 3 days after Election Day could still be counted as long as they are postmarked on Election Day. This sets up for, of course, that means that we will not know the final results if it's a close election on the night of election, and that's where all hell is going to break loose, in my humble opinion. And sorry, Howie. The PA Supreme Court also stated that in the same ruling that the Green Party candidate Howie Hawkins will not appear on November's ballot because the campaign, quote, failed to comply with the election code's strict mandate, unquote, for how nomination paperwork should be handled. Remember how Sean talks about that? You got to be able to fill out the paperwork. Yeah, well, there you go. Oh, God. That's important because in the dispute about the Green Party and the ballot held up the mailing of ballots out to Pennsylvanians who requested a mail-in ballot. Right? So that's cleared now. That's good. In a related ruling, the court also rejected the request of Democrats to allow third-party groups to deliver people's ballots with their permission. The court said third-party ballot delivery of absentee ballots was not permitted. Right? This is really important, everybody, because those ballot boxes, the drop-off boxes, are going to have cameras on them to prevent any tampering with them. And so that evidence could be used. If you innocently say, I'm going to be stopping by there to drop off my ballot. You want me to take yours too as well? I would strongly recommend against that because that can serve, if it's not caught on camera, as evidence that you're dropping off somebody else's ballot. And you can guarantee that the Republicans will use that kind of against you, even if everything else about the ballot is correct, because they won't know what you actually dropped off. So take that into consideration too as well. And yet another plot twist to the so-called redesign of the Pennsylvania state system of higher education. California University, Edinburgh University, and Clarion University say they are affiliating in the latest moves of consolidation enabled by new legislation pushed by Pashi Chancellor Greenstein. Greenstein and university presidents used a whole lot of words to praise themselves and their decision to join together, but details were thin for what this will mean for students, faculty, and staff. The faculty union said that they were surprised by the announcement. Last week, Jermaine Stevens, a 20-year-old defensive tackle on the California University of Pennsylvania's football team, died from a blood clot in his heart after contracting COVID-19. Kutztown University now has over 269 students and employees who have tested positive for the coronavirus as of yesterday. These are just the official numbers. And that's a total of 83 cases this week. Today's figures will be released around 4 p.m., and, we'll see where that goes. This week, the Kutztown Area School District, the K-12 system, public school, reported their first 7 cases of coronavirus. Is there a connection? I wonder. Meanwhile, the Red and Eagle reports that Kutztown University lost $3.5 million after its reopening schemes flopped, and about 1,000 students left campus to get their housing money back. We'll talk a little bit about some university financing and the open secret of the fraud that was perpetrated on the Pennsylvanians, and nobody seems to give a shit about. In today's last call, television production company Space Hero LLC yesterday announced it was planning a global unscripted reality show called Space Hero. Space Hero, which would send the, quote, first globally elected space explorer, unquote, to the International Space Station in 2023. According to the head of Space Hero LLC, Marty, check this guy's last name out, Pompadour. Yeah. He says, quote, Space Hero is the new frontier for the entertainment sector, offering the first ever truly off-planet experience. We aim to reinvent the reality TV category by creating a multi-channel experience that offers the biggest prize ever to the biggest audience possible. This either signals the further commercialization of space or a huge, good old-fashioned terrestrial grift. My money's on the latter, by the way. And Free Will has got some great stuff canned this week. They've got Rise Up Singing, a hazy pale ale. And you've got what I'm really thrilled about, the return of Wild Blueberry Cobbler Mash, which was freaking amazing. Right? And since last week, didn't get a chance to talk about their newest IPA release last week called In the Balance, a hazy IPA. We'll talk about that in the final. And I've got to say, I'm becoming a little obsessed with Westchester's Levante Brewing. A couple weeks ago, I ordered some 3 great beers. Hop Cartel El Cinco, which is a double IPA, Cloudy and Cumbersome Guava IPA, and Intergalactic Deals Vanilla double IPA, and the delicious Glitter Parts Lemon Meringue IPA. And it was freaking delectable. And then this week, they got to go out. Like, I feel like they're taunting me at this point. They came out with a Glitter Parts with Peach, which is Glitter Parts. That series is freaking amazing. Fruit Fetish Baker's Dozen, an apple cider donut infused collaboration with their friends at Highland Orchards. A Tout Sour Ale. We're going to talk about that. And then King of the Campfire, the S'more Imperial Stout. I mean, I'm telling you, like, you know, I'm sitting there thinking about the order button, right? Because they have lowered it down. You order more over than $75 worth of stuff, they will deliver it to you free in Pennsylvania. Likewise, Free Will does the same kind of stuff, so I'll have some information on that. But man, my mouth is watering even thinking about it. So why don't you tune in to the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org. You can also tune in on the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. Make sure you download Rick's daily podcast on iTunes, Podbean, or wherever you get your podcast. And I want to make an apology to folks about Out the Coop Live. I just gonna have to rethinking when we can actually run this stuff. I'm really disappointed. That was something I looked forward to. So I'm probably just going to switch the times around and have to reorganize how the show is going to run a little bit. But that will be coming back once I get it. Once I get that cleared away and scheduled in such a way. It's probably going to have to run a little bit earlier in the day, which is. Part of that is got some negative, well, not negative things, but the downside of that, of course, is people work during the day. And so bringing guests on and having people come on could be a little bit more tricky in terms of scheduling that stuff, but we just may have to do it anyway, so we'll see. I'll keep you posted on that. So we want a progressive future. We need progressive media. We don't just need this show. We need to expand what we're doing. And you can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Just go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. Yes, we're expanding our network as we prepare for the fight of our future going into 2020, heading up to the election. And we're in for the fight, but we need you. We're not asking you to break the bank. Just become a member for the price of a good beer once a month. Help keep the media in the movement in the media. Become a member as little as $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. Well, Sean, we should tell everybody that Sean's internet issues are not completely fixed. They seem to be kind of okay. It's been breaking up a little bit today. So instead of trying to put this off and try to find another time, it's, we're in the busy season now. We thought we're just going to go with it and chalk it up to an archive or an artifact. It literally
just froze on me for 2 seconds in that.
Yeah, there you go. So chalk it up to yet another artifact of 2020. This freaking year that won't die. So how you been, Sean?
Pretty good. I think the best news so far of 2020 is the Menzingers show that's going to be going on in a couple weeks. So on October 10th, they're doing a live show at 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. So hopefully I have my internet fixed by then. And how'd you like the shirt I got?
It's awesome. I want it now. Sean sent me a picture. You just got a Menzinger shirt, which is, you want to describe it?
Yeah. So it's 4 skeletons standing around a trash can, like one of those metal drums with a fire going. And it says 2020 on it, and they're all wearing masks and holding cheap alcohol bottles.
That about does it right
Which,
there.
hey, I think it pretty much shows you like what the year is.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to order myself one of those too as well, because that about does it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we should start off at the top of the show. I know we didn't put it in the notes, but what happened in Lancaster last Sunday?
Yeah. See, this is when I say, like, hey, Sean, if you got anything else you want to put in the notes so we can talk about it. And Sean...
I forgot about this.
Yeah, I forgot about that, right?
But
how much of today's show did you add in today, Sean?
0.
All right, just for the record, right? Now, he did say that I just beat him to the punch on the PA Supreme Court stuff, so just letting everybody know that he did have something in his brain that he wanted to talk about today.
I actually had notes written down, like right here, like notes.
So it was too difficult to transfer those notes into the show notes.
I actually opened up and those notes were already in there. I was like, man, he's like reading my mind.
Good, there you go. Anyways, Lancaster. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We should be talking about this.
What happened in Lancaster last week was a tragedy, and the response to it was just as fucking terrible. A man was shot and killed by police who was on a domestic dispute call. The man had some sort of mental disorder, or he was autistic. And there was a domestic dispute happening, and the cops showed up and killed him as the man charged out of the house with a knife. A lot of people on the right wing are using this as an excuse to attack Black Lives Matter and saying that we're propping up terrible people, when the protests that happened immediately afterwards, cops arrested a bunch of peaceful protesters. There was some property destruction that happened, some fires that were set, but nothing major. And the cops didn't know who did this stuff, so they arrested a bunch of peaceful protesters, and requested $1 million bail each.
Yeah.
And all these ludicrous charges charged against activist organizers in the county. And so, like, this was going on. That comes like at the same time. And again, this is something I didn't put in the show notes. I would, had out of my mind as well. Okay, it will probably come up in discussion anyways, where Bill Barr, Attorney General Bill Barr, and some folks in the Justice Department now, Trump's Justice Department, are also floating ideas of charging, say, activists, some activists, and even some Democratic lawmakers or governors with sedition. Right. So, again, I'm not drawing a one-to-one correspondence here like that. For example, I'm not trying to definitively say that the Lancaster police were bolstered by those statements, but there's certainly, you see these things working in tandem. Yes, and we're seeing stuff happen, lies that are being spread throughout local communities in Facebook groups saying that Antifa is going to be invading Lancaster this weekend to set fires because of what happened, when that's just that bullshit. And you have white nationalists and neo-Nazis going around spreading these lies on Facebook to rile up people and hopefully get a response that we saw in Kenosha and other places. So, that's also happened this week, and pretty terrible. Yeah, pretty terrible. And I think, but I shouldn't say but. There's no but there. Just pretty terrible. Period. In related news, I should say, when you see what happened with Louisville now, right, with a $12 million payout to Breonna Taylor's family, and some, minor police reforms. I mean, it would be, I think, a mistake to see this as completely revolutionary. In terms of like a historic shift and all this stuff, but they do represent some significant reforms. That $12 million payout was the largest payout that the city of Louisville has ever made in these kind of cases, or any kind of case. And that is significant. And that's a direct result. You can count on the fact that comes directly from the pressure from movements. The movements, this is the way struggle happens, right? Is that you get these advances that are happening, but they don't happen uniformly, and there's lots of backlash and there's lots of reaction, and we're going to see both of these things at once. And again, frankly, I'll say this is the kind of thing that makes me extraordinarily nervous because
when you see a victory like this in Louisville, 12 million, it also kind of bolsters some of the reactionary forces. And, you know, they've shown that they will use violence at every step of the way. And that's not to say there shouldn't be those payouts. No, there should be bigger ones, right? And the reform should be deeper, and we should accelerate those reforms, right? Instead of going kind of like small baby steps, in my view. But it does point to, you know, some of the concerns that people are starting to kind of point to, especially when it comes as the election nears and more people are paying attention to politics and what's actually happening in their communities. This is going to be part of that. So, are you still there, Sean, or are you just?
No, I'm here.
You're here. Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I just have my video off because my internet's a little unstable still, so I just wanted to use a lot less bandwidth as possible.
Yeah. I think I just wanted to make sure that it didn't that you didn't cut out completely, because I saw you switch the video off. I figured this was going on, but just wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, did you see any of this stuff? The latest about the CDC?
I have not. I've saw some of the stories about Caputo, and some of the conspiracy theories he's been putting out, and how he was chased out this week, and that the CDC or Trump administration was tampering documents along everything and stuff like that. So
yeah, well, he had his.
I saw that.
Yeah, well, he got chased out only after he posted, did that Facebook Live thing, and where he was basically had his Apocalypse Now moment, right, where he was staring at the blank ceiling alone by the thing. I mean, it was actually, it was disturbing, right? I mean, it sounded, if you ask me, it's like that part of the part of what he was saying was like, it really pointed to the fact that he needs help. And I don't mean that in like, I don't mean that in a, I'm not
joking matter.
Right. No, I mean, I'm seriously. I mean, like, if that guy is really like, put the politics aside for a second, is like, all the more reasons why he should not be in that position. But if he feels that kind of isolated, I mean, yeah, after talking about how there's these, plots for people coming to assassinate him, and people better run out and get guns because they're going to be in short supply when the election comes. I mean, that, talk about just absolutely inflammatory. But that is almost consistent with kind of Republican Party line at this point. The most disturbing part for me is like, he's saying all that stuff, and then it really did sound like he was in the middle of a certain kind of, say, breakdown, right, that he really needed to talk. So in some ways, I mean, I'm happy for all of us that he's not in that position anymore, but I do hope that guy gets some help just for his, well-being. And if, you're not going to find me, waiting for opportunities to praise right-wing nut jobs, but that kind of combination can be really super dangerous. So there's that. The latest stuff on CDC, and Sean, we were talking a little bit about this before, not in this exactly in this context, but when you find out that CDC releases the testing guidelines, and there had been some reporting earlier on in the summer, right before kind of school went back. Well, I guess it was late August. That there were some things that were being changed in the CDC website. There was political influences on what was being reported out, what people were being allowed to say, and so on. But there weren't there weren't real specifics. There were sources, the unnamed sources. People were worried about their jobs, that kind of thing. Well, New York Times just got hold of documents that basically showed that the scientists, that there's these, the CDC has got a web page, right? And on the web page is where they post their testing guidelines. Well, those guidelines that are posted there did not come from CDC scientists, right? As a matter of fact, they came from the Trump administration. Right. And, it seemed from what the story seems to suggest it came from that task force. Who on that task force it came for or whatever. But the scientists at the CDC were not consulted within that. And not only that, only a few were known of that. There's a big question about whether or not the head of the CDC should step down now because of this. But then you always worry, well, what's going to go in his place, right? But that aside, but the bigger concern there is that when everybody is doing this planning, you're looking to some organization to set the standards, right? Because the Trump administration as a whole has refused to do this. The states, like even including Pennsylvania, right? Yes, there's standards, but those standards, if you read them, I mean, those standards are extraordinarily loose, right? Lots of wiggle room words in there. Things like, when possible, do this. instead of do this, right? So the CDC guidelines are political documents, right? And there were some things in there the scientists were saying they overtly disagree with. But the organization, the agency, does not have the ability to go in and change those things, right? And the reporter who broke the story last night was on the Rachel Maddow show. Her name is let me just pull up her name. Sorry, Apurva Mandavili. Apurva Mandavili. She broke the story on her own. She covered that's kind of her beat, and she got the documents. And one of the things that they suspect, the reason why the story broke when it is, and why the documents that people were willing to speak out much more forthrightly there, is because these new testing guidelines were supposed to be posted on the CDC website today, and it was. The reporter kind of found that, yes, it was going to be the same process. Scientists were not aware of the process. They were locked out of the process. They were just finding out about this. And it was going to be Trump administration officials who were going to post it to the CDC. And not only does should that raise our alarm flags, but it really raises a difficult question about where we go for any, clear authority on what is safe and what's not safe. Right? What is appropriate and it's not appropriate. I mean, I can tell you right now, I do not like feeling paranoid about the coronavirus at all. It drives, I'm stir crazy. I'll tell you that. I do not like doing this. I have to talk myself down all the time. Like when I'm like thinking like, I'm just done with this. Right. So, well, you can't be, right? You got to be vigilant. Right? If we're actually in this together, then we've got to kind of take the precautions that are necessary. But, we've been basically left up in a situation where every individual, every family, every kind of individual is left up to their own sense of what's real to make their decision.
And this is like the bullshit argument from like the libertarianism that we're in right now. Like this like full blown like libertarian argument of individualism and individual responsibility versus like taking an action. Where like, because someone was like an argument with me, like, well, like the state only tells irresponsible adults what to do. No, the state's telling everyone what to do. Like, and you have to follow what the state is telling you, not just do things on your own. And like we're seeing what like doing things on your own is actually accomplishing right now, which is nothing. Well, what it is accomplishing is the spreading of disease. Like, and it is. I mean, like, at this point, yeah, I'm taking the individual responsibility of just staying in my house, in my apartment the whole entire time and not going outside because I don't want to fucking deal with people in crowds. I mean, the bar across the street from me is now opening up on Monday to 50% capacity.
Yep.
Right? Like...
And that's as best, and the best we know at this point, right, is that like bars and restaurants are considered some of the some of the worst situations, right? The most concentrated spreads, right? Or I'm saying this really wrong, but could be some of the worst places where the virus can spread, right?
Yeah, and it's like so there's like that type of stuff, and I mean. Yeah, I don't even know what to say at this point. I think we've been beating this drum for like months now, but
well, it's frustrating, and I think that it's I told you this story, and it's like I have this, I struggle with this. I can't even tell you how much I struggle with this. Is because my kids are back in school, and my daughter does this hybrid version of things, and I've had just an amazing experience. My kids have had an amazing experience at their elementary school, and the principal is absolutely fantastic. The teachers are fantastic. And I have a high degree of confidence that they are taking every precaution possible and are really following through on it, right? And everything I'm hearing from my daughter and from other people is just kind of increasing that feedback loop, right? That yes, they're doing things like in a really, really positive way. My son, however, didn't have that option of the hybrid in the middle school. And the choice was either go all in full day in person, or to go all online. And I think I would even say, I think my wife would probably agree with me that I was the one who's kind of like even more like most cautious, and did not feel comfortable putting back in, especially when they told you directly they will not be able to social distance. right? That the distance will be 3.5 feet, right? Or in that neighborhood. They didn't have good.
And also, like, what the fuck is up with your health director in Bucks County?
Guy's a Democrat. And
he's a Democrat?
Yes, he is. And
because it seems like he's been putting out a bunch of like right-wing nonsense this whole entire time during the pandemic, and the county commissioners are just allowing it to happen when they control the fucking county.
I just like, look. I think I honestly believe, Sean, this is a what happens when you play politics as team sport, right? I don't. Some of the things, look, I've been at board of education meetings where this guy has come and he's actually kind of like, answered questions from people, and some of the stuff that comes out of this guy's mouth, man, I just like, that doesn't square with anything that I know, right? But yet, I mean, who the hell am I, right? But so then you go back and you compare even some of the stuff that's not on the CDC's front page, but some of their background research on this stuff, and you look at some of the reports that are coming out in medical journals, contradicts what this guy says. And
because it's like Republicans have been using this guy as a way to undermine what the State Department of Health has been doing
totally
in different counties throughout the state.
Absolutely.
And this guy's, yeah. And it's just, it is ridiculous that the Democrats in Bucks County have allowed this to go on and continue.
Well, look, I mean, this is also, look, there's multiple layers of this. Someday we can go down a really deep rabbit hole on this one, but because I think that, look, this is also the problem of the way, and I'm complicit in this. I'll say this absolutely. This has been a shorthand. When we say we have to trust the science, right? And I do believe that, right? We need the best scientific, like evidence and research that's as objective as possible in order to make these determinations about what is safe and all this stuff. I do believe that, right? But the problem is that, and Democrats have latched onto that, right? So now what happens when you have a guy who's a doctor, right? He's a medical practitioner or researcher, whatever, like this, and he's the head of this stuff, and he's supposed to be the expert. So we're supposed to trust the expert. We keep on being told we're supposed to trust these experts and trust medicine, trust science. And then you've got this guy coming in and say, the science says, and then I'm like, I just read this piece that said the opposite of what you're saying. Right? So he's offering a perspective on the science. And I think that I have nothing to base this on at all. I want to be clear about this, other than just a gut feeling that there's a reluctance on the part of the county commissioners of Bucks County, because they just took over as Democrats, right? They just took over the county commission as a majority, and they're reluctant to criticize other Democrats. And I don't know if I'm right about that. This is the pattern that I see, and I have difficulty of finding other explanations. Or your county Democrats are just a nepotistic machine, like every other county Democratic Party in the state, pretty much. They are, although I have to say, it's like, I've had some pretty good interactions with some of the county commissioners, right, in Bucks County, who seem like a little bit more level-headed, and I think in part it's because they've been in the minority for such a long time. There's a little bit more of fight in some of them, and but I mean, it's like you have 4 years, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the type of thing where it's like there's not an election coming up with you guys for another 3.5 years at this point. Like, what is your person doing, and how come you're not? Like, it seems like he's more interested in making a name for himself versus like. I honestly don't know. But I look, I can tell you this too as well, as I've heard from other medical folks too as well, that who've relied upon this guy. I mean, like I said, our school district has brought this guy in multiple times to talk to the board and talk to the public and parents about this, and and some things that he says, some of the things that he would say, he was trying to be nuanced in what he was saying, but then people were taking it to be a statement, right? And I just don't know. This is like the perfect example of where I don't feel as a parent I have a good way of evaluating the advice that is coming from this guy in a way that makes me feel confident about my kids going to school. And, that's even coming home even more, as I was saying, my son is doing online, and look, he hates it. and it's because they're it's attempting to replicate like the regular school day in Zoom. Right. And as someone who's being forced to do that by my university, I could tell you it is not the best approach. Right. This kind of synchronous, like everyone's in the class at the same time. And, it seems like that the teachers are slowly kind of adapting, and they're realizing this for themselves and trying to find other ways to come at it, which is awesome. But that as a parent, in the back of my mind, I'm always like, well, look, am I hurting my kid? Right. By having them do this when he's clearly upset and clearly and my kid loved school, right? He was a smart kid. He is a smart kid, and he's would engage with this stuff, but I recognize the frustration. And so, I think, look, I'm not saying anything special here, that not every single parent that I've talked to is going through some degree of this. So, but I can't tell you how hard it's even right as we're doing this podcast, my kids are upstairs, right? My wife has to work right now. And so always in the back of my mind, no matter what I'm doing, right? I'm always looking to, right before we do the podcast, let me go check up on my kids and we'll see where they're at and all this stuff, making sure there's blah, blah, blah. It's trying, to say the least. But yeah, so I don't know, Sean. It makes me concerned. And then I see this stuff here about that's, the study from Health Affairs that talks about 42 of school employees are at high risk. And I've had arguments with people about this, and I was like, you can't understand. It's like, we can so we're talking about this as it's an individual choice, but the reason why I'm supporting the choices that I made is because I don't want it in the community. And my sense of responsibility.
You don't want your teachers to die.
That's what I mean. My sense of responsibility goes beyond just my kid, right? My responsibility goes to the rest of the freaking community.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, people look at me like deers in headlights when I say this. And I'm like, and it makes me feel crazy. It makes me feel like I am a lunatic. Right? So, whatever.
So, one of the fun things this week, I think we should talk about. So we have a couple people on our weekly phone calls who live on the West Coast.
Oh, man.
They had to leave Portland. They had to leave their parts of Oregon. What's happening in Olympia and in Seattle, the amount of smoke in the air. I don't know if people understand what's happening. They had to put chimney furnaces or chimney filters inside their air conditioning units because that's how much smoke is in the air out on the West Coast and stuff like that. And, one of our people had to go out to Big Sky, Montana to get away from Portland. There's whole entire towns on the West Coast that have just been completely wiped off the map that are just never going to be rebuilt again.
They say in Oregon, they're saying over 500,000 people have been
10%
displaced.
of the population.
Yeah.
10% of the population has been displaced. We're seeing that with the hurricanes that are happening, and this is the future that we're in,
right?
And the thing about these forest fires, that's all carbon dioxide going up in the air.
Yep.
That CO2 just burning and going up in the air, and there are no and that's also CO2 not going out of the air because that's what the trees do. They regulate the carbon cycle. So we have that, the hurricanes, and then one of my good friends, David Legatus, got nominated to NOAA this week.
One of your good friends.
One of the things I think about this, one of my good friends. He's been speaking. There has to be a fucking connection between the House Republicans in Pennsylvania and these people, these people like Legatus. So many of these fucking jokes that have come and testify over the past couple of years have just been streamlined to the Trump administration in different positions and stuff like this. And, one of the things with the George W. Bush revisionism and, the whitewashing of Bush's history, this is the same exact stuff that George W. Bush did while he was president.
Yep.
And we seem to forget that. All these incompetent fools that are in the administration now are getting nominated at these spots. This is the same dangerous stuff that George W. Bush did.
Yeah, man.
And, like I got in an argument this past week with someone. The reason why people are making Bush look good is a tack make Trump look bad. And that's just fucking bullshit. Like, George W. Bush might be a more destructive president than Trump. Like, Trump is a symptom of George W. Bush and the Republican Party leading up to that.
Yeah.
Like, and he's just continuing to carry the water for these people and do what these Republicans have been doing for a while by just putting incompetent fools in these positions of power in order to destroy these institutions.
Yep.
I mean, do I have to say anything else about that?
No, I mean, I think you're dead on, and I think that I think that we were pretty clear early on that this whole idea about kind of reforming, war criminals and some of the people who set the stage where we are is like the absolute wrong thing to be doing. Right?
And also, like, the people that set the stage for this, like, are also the Democrats in Nancy Pelosi who decided not to go after George W. Bush when they took back the House in 2006.
No, that's right.
This whole entire we have to look forward. We can't be looking no, we have to hold these people to account so these crimes don't happen again. And they're allowing these crimes to happen again.
Yep.
Because of the history of Democrats not holding people to account, by not holding Ronald Reagan to account with Iran-Contra, not holding George W. Bush account with the Iraq War, and now they're not even holding Trump to account with what's going on.
Yep. I mean, I honestly don't know what we do about that. I mean, it's, we keep on plugging away with, trying to elect progressive leaders here and keep up the pressure upon, these Democrats to get them out of office because it's, they're
afraid of the political ramifications. They're afraid of politicizing stuff. And it's fucking pathetic. And this is where it's leading us to.
Well, but they, this is what I find so problematic. They're afraid of politicizing certain things, right?
Like releasing Trump's tax returns.
Well, I mean, look, you can spend all your political capital on the Russia investigation while ignoring everything else, right?
And like the vasectomies, the stories of the history.
Oh my God, I can't believe we didn't put that in there. This has been. It's probably because I've been so disturbed by this.
This is a perfect example of this.
Right.
I mean, this is an absolutely perfect example of this. Like the stuff that's happening in the ICE detention centers, and we decided not to do that because it was too much of a political risk to include Trump's caging of children and misplacing thousands of kids. And someone got into an argument. Well, like Russia was the easier thing to explain, and it was less political capital. Like, and
it was not easier to explain. Kids in cages is easy to explain,
and misplacing kids, and and them kids never seeing their families again.
Anybody who is alive, right, is going to feel more attachment to children and families and displacement than they are to like some sort of reenacted Cold War conspiracy, right? And you've heard me say this 1,001 times. I do believe that Russia interfered in the election. I do believe that there's strong evidence they're attempting to do this again. Do I believe that that is the thing, right, that kind of tipped it all? No, I don't. It contributed to it too as well. But you know what? So did a real shitty campaign on the part of the Hillary Clinton campaign. I mean, we could go through the things. So did,
and it seemed and the Biden campaign this week saying door knocking isn't needed to win.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is, when I saw that, Sean, I was like, you know what? Here we go.
Yeah.
They're taking the lesson. What they're doing is they're taking the lesson from, this is what immediately went through my mind. They're taking the quote unquote lesson from the primary, right? Where the real battle was to defeat Bernie Sanders, right? So the primary was Joe Biden, all he needs to do is he needs to sit in his basement, produce a video once in a while, right? And then that's it, right? Maybe go to the debates, but try to keep away as much as possible. And then you have all the other contestants, because that's what it felt like, right? All the other kind of people running for the Democratic nomination drop out at a key point and endorse Biden, right? And does it. And then Biden didn't do anything. Even that acceptance when he's like, even when he was kind of out, he won a primary and did this big like cheer thing. You looked at the crowd. This is pre-coronavirus, right? You looked at the crowd. There was a camera that accidentally pulled back to show the room that he was speaking to. And there was like a couple dozen people in it. And they went to the Bernie Sanders one and there's like thousands. Right. And that they said, oh, look, we did it there. We can do it here. Donald Trump did it by not having to kind of, do a whole bunch of door knocking and things like this. He did it through all the media on these rallies. So that's what we're going to do. It's fundamentally the wrong lesson, but whatever. Whatever. Who the hell's going to listen to me? Who the hell's going to listen to you?
Yeah. So,
but yeah. It's crazy.
Do we want to wrap this up?
Yeah. So, I mean, so what it is, I mean, again, the last thing I'll mention about this in this segment is just about the, going back to the stuff about the wildfires and everything like this is like, it's like the fact that we're having historic wildfires in the West Coast, the fact that we're having this kind of like unprecedented hurricane season, the fact that we're seeing,
Oh, and the sunsets. I already noticed this a couple weeks ago, how hazy it's
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
In Harrisburg.
Yeah, it's freaky.
And I was like, man, like this. Yeah, I was like, wow, this is actually because I was out walking the riverfront the other day, and I mean, like the weather said there was no clouds in the sky, but you could see like there was a thin haze.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, this is actually from the fires out on West Coast. Like this is, because the sky's glowing a different color and stuff like that.
Yeah, no,
But,
exactly.
yeah.
And I think so. There's that, and then also I also didn't put this in the notes to do as well. We had kind of a huge section of the Greenland glacier or ice shelf break off this week, which again happened sooner than they thought. So we've got this climate crisis that's taking place that we can't even pay attention to as a people, as a society, right? I mean, again, we've denied it for so long, but we can't even pay attention to that, like because there's like literally dumpster fires, right? Everywhere we look. So, whatever. All right, we're gonna kind of cut this off here because it can go into really dark areas from here, and we need a little bit of break. How about that? So, anyways, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We will be back right after this quick break. I want to remind you that become a member of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. You can go to patreon.com/rcpress today. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. We'll be back right after this break.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1895. That was the day that Booker T. Washington delivered what came to be known as the Atlanta Compromise speech, which outlined his vision for race relations and black labor in the South. Washington was the founder of the Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute, a college designed to train black students for careers in teaching, farming, and other trades. Washington was invited to give an address to the Cotton States and International Exposition in Atlanta. It was the first time that a black man was asked to speak before a black and white Southern audience. In his speech, he urged Southern landowners and business leaders to employ black labor over European immigrants. He said, quote, "To those of the white race who look to the incoming of those of foreign birth and strange tongue and habits for the prosperity of the South, were I permitted, I would repeat what I say to my own race. Cast down your bucket where you are." He continued, "Cast it down among those people who have, without strikes and labor wars, tilled your fields, cleared your forests, built your railroads and cities, and brought forth treasures from the bowels of the earth, and helped make possible this magnificent representation of the progress of the South." His speech outlined a plan for gradual black economic advancement. He declared, quote, "Agitation of questions of social equality is the extremist folly." Other black leaders, most notably W.E. Du Bois, rejected Booker T. Washington's idea of gradual advancement. Instead, Du Bois fought racial discrimination through the legal system and helped to found the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Welcome back to Raging Chickens Out the Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney sitting here with Sean Kitchen once again. So, Sean, let me just get this out of the way right up here. Can we just talk a little bit about this this ruling from this federal judge out west? Again, a Trump appointee. Elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. A Trump appointee that basically said that Governor Wolf's shutdown orders were unconstitutional. What's your perspective on this?
So pretty much the Republicans shopped around for a judge that would take this case up. They found it, and they got the ruling that they wanted. They took the same exact case in front of the federal court in Philadelphia, and they said no. So they went looking for a different judge, and they found one that would say yes, and that's what they got. They got the ruling that they were looking for. And this is not about public health or public safety or restoring liberty. This is about them getting a talking point. This is about them getting this is them about getting the press release that they wanted. And that's it. A messaging win. And
right.
That's what they were looking for. A messaging win that will kill thousands of people in the name of liberty and to help out their business owners and the people who donate to their campaigns.
Yeah, well, I've said this to you before the show too. I got very frustrated with some of the liberal commentators on this. It seems
this probably will get thrown out in court, like overturned. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the damage is going to be done.
Right, because people already. I mean, I've already heard people talking about the new court decision so that we can go out. Right. Basically, we can go out now, right? I've already seen that there's now kind of like they're increasing capacities for a lot of things. There's already been changes in, I just even can't even get into it. It kills me.
Like bar owners are now there's bars in my neighborhood are opening up to 50%. Because of
well, this is what I mean. Is like that comes out and like so. This is the dynamic, right? Yes, the Wolf administration is going to appeal it. Yes, that it's probably going to get overturned when it gets to the Supreme Court, as Ian Millhiser and kind of others have kind of been pointing out. In the meantime, people are going and basically treating it as if yes, it's unconstitutional. So therefore, we are going to enact our constitutional rights by opening our bars and do all this stuff, and then almost daring. Like, say, someone from the government, the police, to come in and basically say you have to shut them down, right? Because now the threat is they shut them down. Now they can file a lawsuit that based on it's unconstitutional. And again, given the track record of a lot of Democrats on this stuff, they're very reluctant about, making people too upset, right? We're also
seeing this, like, in the State House this week. A bunch of fucking Democrats have been voting for these bills that the Republicans have just been lying about. Like, there was a House bill brought up this week. Banning Governor Wolf from closing churches when the governor did not close any churches down during his whole entire COVID relief. But since the Democrats are afraid to come up with their own messaging, or they don't want the Republicans using this line of attack against them, like half the caucus fucking voted for this bill when it's just a flat out lie.
Like, that's astonishing. That is astonishing. It really is.
And it's amazing how there's no backbone or discipline within the caucuses. Like, this is a bill that's going to get vetoed. And, we'll see where it goes from there. But
this is what small-minded politics gets you. I mean, that's all I got to say. I mean, it's really, seriously. I mean, with to kind of say, not being able to call a lie a lie.
And also, these things, like the Democrats are getting, like, the Republican message is a losing fucking message in this state. Anyone who's running for office right now, anyone who's working on a campaign right now, anyone who's following politics now or working in politics right now in Pennsylvania knows for a fact that the messaging that the Republicans have been on is a losing message, and that people are fucking sick and tired of the Republicans and what they're doing in Pennsylvania, what they're doing in Harrisburg, the corruption that's going on, and the shit that they're pulling, the politicizing of this pandemic. Like, people are sick and tired of it, and we have Democrats in our state legislature who don't have a fucking backbone to we kill our own message.
Yeah.
Like, who needs a Republican Party when we destroy the message ourselves? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is absolutely insane.
And it is such a weird way to think about your constituents or Pennsylvanians, right?
Like,
that you think
people are voting. Like, people are voting on, like, these Democrats are voting on the PIAA bill, right? And so that Wolf is going to allow, like, parents and spectators to go to football games this year. like they're afraid of like one or two people calling their offices complaining about this, like versus like taking a stand. And there are Democrats who I won't name here who I do know, but it's like, where's your backbone? Like, you claim to be a progressive, you're trying to be a liberal, but here you are, you're voting on these crappy bills, and you like why? Because you're afraid to like message? You want to get reelected with like the least resistance possible?
Right. Well, and what blows my mind about that too as well is like the messaging was right there in front of their faces. I mean, Penn State reported, like, was it 2 weeks ago now, I guess, maybe a week and a half ago.
Penn State's the number one county in the country.
Well, yeah, I mean, Center County right now is like, you look at it, it's like this big black hole in the middle of state cases. But here's what I'm saying is like what Penn State released. This is about the athletic program, right? They show that, say, it was like 30% of the athletes that 30% of the athletes that tested positive for the coronavirus had this thing. I'm gonna butcher the names, like myocarditis or something like this, but it's basically like it's kind of like a disorder in the
stress on your heart.
Yes, the muscle of your heart, right? So this is basically, and they don't know like how much of a long-term condition this is going to be as a result of coronavirus, right? So you've got concrete research that they're citing. You've got the death of this guy, right? Kind of out in out the California.
20-year-old.
Yeah, 20-year-old kid, man, Jermaine Stevens. I mean, he's like, and whose father, by the way, played for the Steelers. What's that?
And like you have people like Senator Mastriano and others in the Republican Party repeating this lie that we shouldn't be doing this because the 18 to 20-some-year-olds are safe from this and they won't die from coronavirus. When that's just a patently false lie.
But like what they failed to even say is that like look. I think it's fair to say that it is true. Right, that 18 to 25-year-olds, whatever you want to say, right, do not die at the same rate as people in nursing homes, right? Okay, I'll give you that. But we also know that doesn't mean they're not dying. It means that it's not as likely, right? Okay, but then it also doesn't say, like, they refuse to deal with the fact that it's still unclear what the long-term impacts of this stuff is, because it gets into your organs, right? I mean, there's been kidney failures. So like, there's a reason why if you have any kind of kidney issues, this becomes like a concern in the coronavirus, because they're finding that it's infecting your kidneys, it's affecting your liver, it's affecting your brain in some cases, and your heart. So you've got these, So this is what drives me insane about the college stuff is like, okay, so you say it's okay for these kids to do it because they're not going to die, but hey, what the hell? If they're going to have long-term health implications of this and is in a culture that refuses to give them health insurance, too bad for them. I mean, yeah. So you got that coming out from Pennsylvania. No. You got this kid out in California University of Pennsylvania die because of this stuff, and the Democrats can't come out and take a stand and say, these guys are lying to you. They want to play football. Look what just happened here. Look what Penn State just had. Do we want our kids to do this?
Conspiracy theories.
And instead of, where the hell is the backbone? Exactly. So I don't know.
Where's the discipline in the caucus at the very least?
Yeah. Well, it's like, again, it's gonna take time, and this drives me insane. But again, we're gonna have a increased number of progressives in the House, an increased number in the Senate, the state Senate, hopefully. So that the power of that progressive caucus is going to increase. You put more and more pressure upon the Democrats to have that spine, and I'm pretty sure they're going to have the spine. Right. So, this is why, people get on Sean, get on me, whatever, and get frustrated with the fact that we're kind of hard on Democrats, right? Instead of just kind of, I don't know, tooting their horn or something like that. But, what you got to understand is like there's a real struggle that is happening here between different visions of what that party should be. And it's not just based upon like style. It's based upon where we think the fundamental commitment should be to that party. Yes, there's going to be all sorts of disagreements with. What? Go ahead. Sorry.
In these votes that are more concerned about higher office in a couple of years with new maps for Congress than actually doing stuff in a competent way. Like, I can name names right now of people who I'm frustrated with, but I'm not. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure you could read between the lines and and know who I'm talking about.
Totally.
Like, yeah, and it's just like it is absolutely ridiculous that this is happening. But and like the polling is there. Like the messaging behind this is there.
It's and it's infected.
The polling shows. I mean, the polling shows that people are pissed off at the Republicans if you craft the message the right way, and they're not doing it.
No, what? Look, this is the kind of stuff that just baffles me. Right? Is like you have the Democrats have like as a party as a whole. Right now, again, I'm broadly generalizing here, everybody. Right? I recognize that, but they have shifted to this consultant model of politicking. Right? Where you're poll testing things, you're doing all this other kind of stuff, right? And you're employing all these consultants in order to give you advice about all this other kind of thing. So you've got your own freaking consultants and your own polls telling you this stuff, but you don't act on it. That right there, that's a lack of vision, a lack of creativity, and a lack of and being completely averse to any kind of risk taking whatsoever. And the irony is, of course, is that it is more of a risk for the Democratic Party to continue doing this nonsense that they're doing now than it would be actually to invest in a vision for the future. Whatever. So there's that. But so Sean, I mean, I could put this stuff in the Supreme Court today, but I really wanted to put it in, and primarily because I know that you pay attention to this stuff. And so kind of walk us through a little bit about what happened with the Supreme Court.
So I'll start off with the good news.
Yeah.
Howie Hawkins is not on the ballot. So like what ended up happening was that Howie Hawkins' campaign ended up faxing. You have to like physically hand in your documents, right?
Uh-huh.
Like all the documents together.
Wait, is this what he said? Is this what he said? Is this what he said?
I'm smart enough to, form my own opinions.
Sorry. I had to bring that oldie but goodie in.
So, like, apparently, like, they faxed the paper and passed the deadline or something like that, and they got thrown off on a technicality. But, no, I mean, like, frankly, I'm over the stuff with the Green Party. I don't care if they're on the ballot or not. I care if they're not on the ballot, but, I mean, it's just like, it is a political movement that's just not worth investing in.
No, I agree with you at this point.
And that's how I feel.
I agree, especially after I saw things coming out from the Green Party where there was Republican operatives like working to get the Green Party on the ballot, and the Green Party was willing to take the help, right? And that shows you two things: one, a complete and utter lack of any principle whatsoever, right? And number two, it tells you that they don't have the people to do the work. So there's never a chance in hell. If they have to rely upon Republicans, right, in order to do the work for them, there is no reason to invest at all. Now, I am at the point where I am 100% willing to start having serious conversations over the long haul about creating and strengthening a progressive caucus, a left caucus in the Democratic Party for the potential for eventual conversion of the Democratic Party to something better or to a break to a third party. That's got to be a long-term strategic question, right? I'm all for that at this point.
And I think the DSA is already doing that.
Exactly. Benjamin Dixon, like I say, you've heard me say this, listen to the Benjamin Dixon show. Benjamin Dixon is on this stuff, and I think he's absolutely right about his strategy. I'm not going to rehearse it right here. Go check out the Benjamin Dixon show for that. But I think that's just I want to hear what the Green Party has, in my view, has sold its soul. It's sold its souls to grifters and to hacks at this point. And that is nothing to say for the people who have worked for a Green Party for a long period of time and believe in that kind of the principles of the original Green Party. I just think we got to face up to the fact that Green Party, that idea about what that Green Party is, does not exist. Right? So especially when I saw that, it was like you're accepting Republican operatives to go to do the work for you. I mean, no, I'm done. That for me is the final straw. I'm done. Right?
Yeah.
So anyways, back to the Supreme Court. Yeah.
Well, also, I think I have to say about the Supreme Court. Like, okay, so we knew that, like, what the person who heard this case originally was Senator Scarnati's former chief of staff, Drew Crompton. Okay, so this was a highly political case by him. And why would he rule this decision? You think about it, this case was a week ago. This took 7 days off the vote by mail schedule.
Yep.
If he would have ruled Howie Hawkins off the ballot last week, then the print shops around the state and in your counties could have started printing those ballots, could have started mailing them out. But instead, Crompton took a week off that schedule. And I feel like that's the only reason why he ruled in the favor of the Green Party, was to Democrats have like an 80% advantage in mail-in ballot applications right now. And I feel like that is the only way that's the reason why he did this, is to take 7 days off the calendar for people to vote by mail.
Yeah.
And to start the process. So, there's some good news. There's good news and there's bad news in this, in there. The bad news first, naked ballots will not. So naked ballot, any ballot, mail-in ballot that does not have a naked ballot, which is like the secret envelope.
Right.
So you get 2 envelopes when you vote by mail. You get the blank envelope and the regular envelope.
Yep.
If your ballot is not in the blank envelope, it will not be counted.
Yep.
So that's off. Okay, it's one of the bad things. Another bad thing, you can't deliver ballots for anyone else to the mailbox or drop boxes, which is something about ballot harvesting and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. The good news that came out of the Supreme Court this week, there will be no signature tests. So if your signature, in theory, county election judges have the potential of allowing you not to vote, of taking you off the vote if you vote in person with your signature being different.
Right.
So, my signature is different from 5 years ago. Whenever I sign in the polls, they never test me and stuff like that. So you don't have a biased election judge determining whether or not your signature, your ballot is valid through the signature.
Right.
Drop boxes are allowed, which is a very good thing. So there's going to be a lot of drop boxes going out around the state. And then the Green Party is the other one, pretty much, that I have written down.
Yeah, the other thing I should have mentioned this. I started to put this in the notes before, and I didn't. This is not specific to Pennsylvania, but affects Pennsylvania. There's a federal court ruling out on the West Coast that basically ordered the Postal Service to undo all the things that they've done to start slowing down the mail. And that's a huge issue. Because up in Allentown, for example, Allentown is one of the major kind of sorting areas, and they have kind of one of the, main hubs up there. That was one of the ones that was being ordered to kind of remove some of the rapid sorting machines. And that was happening around the country, particularly in kind of Democratic leaning states. And that would have kind of kind of slow down the machine even more and be able to getting mail out. So that's really, really good news and that will impact Pennsylvania as us being one of those states that was impacted directly by those federal changes.
Also, if you're going to vote by mail, don't mail your ballot out on election day. Mail your ballot as soon as you get it. Finish that process as soon as it is done.
Yep.
As soon as you collect your ballot, fill it out and return it. Don't be sitting on it. Get this done as quickly as possible. Another ruling that the court had is that any ballots can come into the counties up until Friday after Election Day. So, if your ballot gets hung up in the mail, you have until Friday for it to get there. But that does not mean it has to be postmarked by Election Day. So that means if you mail it on Election Day, there's a good chance your ballot will not be postmarked that day. So Just keep that in mind and get your ballot out as quickly as possible, or take it to your county drop box.
Yep, absolutely. And I can't emphasize that enough. So even though there was that one little win to say that, okay, ballots coming up 3 days afterwards, as long as they're postmarked by that day, will be counted. That's good. But despite the fact that there's that federal ruling about the kind of the post office, we know that the mail is still slow, and we should just expect that that's going to be the case. And so if there's any time not to procrastinate, this is the one. While it's in your hand, you get it in the mail, do it then. Crazy. Oh, great. So anything else on that score?
No, nothing with that.
No, cool. So a couple things here with the state system of higher education is that just whatever. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this, but they're looking to consolidate 3 universities out in the West. California University, Edinburgh University, and Clarion University. There were plans for I believe it was Edinburgh and Clarion to consolidate, but now this kind of surprise announcement comes out that no, 3 universities are going to join together and do this. One, what was surprising to me is it seemed to me that their announcement surprised everyone except the chancellor, right? I know that Jamie Martin, who's the president of APSCUF, my faculty union, Jamie Martin stated that she was, the union was surprised by this, like they weren't expecting this, which has raised a whole bunch of questions for me is like, what kind of process did they undergo in order to get to this? So you're telling me that the local faculty union had no idea that this was going on? Right. What does that mean about the freaking so-called commitment to shared governance that the Chancellor Greenstein has? I don't know. But whatever. I mean, I could go in all that, but I'm not as interested in kind of digging into that aspect of this yet. The other thing I want to kind of like point to again is that we see at Kutztown University, once again, we see an increase in cases. There's about an increase of 83 cases this week alone, up to 269 students and employees who have tested positive. The vast majority of those are students, but it's only 3 of those cases are employees at this point, right? That's one good news because the employees tend to be kind of older and have more, kind of vulnerabilities, you say, to COVID.
Oh, speaking about this,
yeah, go ahead.
The health issues. I'm surprised we didn't put this in there. The Kutztown professor who asked Trump the question the other night.
Oh, Alicia Black. She's in my department.
She dropped the sir bomb on him.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, that made my week.
Yeah, that was. I think that was beautiful. That she refused to be talked over and shut down by Trump live, right? And that shit went nuts. That went everywhere. So yeah, kudos to Alicia. Kudos to Alicia Black. She's a professor of African American literature in the English department at Kutztown University, kudos to you, Alicia. And I know, look, I know she wasn't looking for any kudos on that. I mean, she has genuine health concerns and believes that she was trying to raise that because this is she's not the only one's being affected, but it is something that directly affects her in terms of the way he's dealing with COVID and what he kind of mess around with health insurance. But all I have to say is that what she did there to kind of refuse to be interrupted by Trump and insisted on being able to finish her point is who she is. Right. That's how she goes through the world. So, it was great to see that. It was awesome to see that. So, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So one thing, so we've got the increase in cases. We're seeing that the school district, the public school district in Kutztown there's cases that are showing up now in the school district. There's also new reports that came out, which again, I didn't put this in the notes today, but there's a new report that came out that found out in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, colleges, specifically in Pennsylvania, even more so in Pennsylvania because New Jersey has shut down more of its schools. But in Pennsylvania, the colleges and universities are the prime drivers of the increase of, coronavirus cases across the state, which is again, you've heard me say this on this podcast. We have the folks that I work with. We've been telling people this is what's going to happen. I mean, this is not brain surgery in order to get to. But sure enough, that's bearing out. And last week, I believe, was the deadline for students at Kutztown to leave their housing and get a full refund for their housing. So basically one of the ways they coaxed students back to campus was basically to dangle the housing thing in front of say, okay, look, you come back and and you decide, you got 2 weeks, you decide if you're going to stay, great. But you got to this deadline. If you decide that, no, you're going to leave, you get your money back, for your housing. And sure enough, there was an exodus, right? Because, if they said 1 week, the university would be able to keep all that cash, but they said 2 weeks. And what that basically meant, it gave the number of cases time to spike up. Students saw the writing on the wall. I mean, I can't tell you how many students I've talked to now who now know somebody who's tested positive. And
also, like, now they're bringing this shit back into their
That is absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct. So now you've got, and I've heard from students who basically said that, look, we were told, right, that, that they did get a call from the university. Kudos to that, right? Like, good thing on that. They got a call from the university, basically doing some contact tracing that said, somebody that said that they were in contact with you, tested positive for coronavirus. So, you should be concerned, and we encourage you to get tested, right? And so they went and they got tested, and it turns out that everyone that they lived with, right, this group of students, everyone in there was tested positive, right? And so then a lot of them left, right? Some of them stayed, some of them left, but you went back home. So that's kind of what happens. And, again, I have the students that I've spoken to have been extraordinarily conscientious, like, for the most part. The other thing I can tell you is that the biggest outbreak that is happening under concentration of students is among athletes, right? And from my understanding of that has to do with some parties, right? Some of these parties have been held by
the rugby house or the football house.
Exactly. A kind of off campus that have kind of they've been some of the primary drivers. So a lot of the you see a concentration among COVID cases among athletes, which also again raises the questions that we talked about before. But what, of course, the university is now freaking out about is the fact that you've had an exodus of about 1,000 students, right, who've left the housing, which basically and they took their money with them, and the university is now saying that, look, we've lost about $3.5 million because of the coronavirus, right? I would argue really because of the way that they decided to roll out this and what their expectations were.
I mean, we've been saying this for months now, especially with Kutztown and other state system schools. They've sunk tens of millions of dollars into loans and bonds in order to build these luxury style apartments on campus. And the reason why they reopened was so that they can pay down their debts. That's it. Plain and simple.
And simple. And
and it's a financial, like they put their finances in ahead of the public health, ahead of the health of Kutztown and the neighboring communities. I think last week or this week, a township near Kutztown had like an eighth of all their coronavirus cases came within the past week.
Right.
Like, you see this shit happening here, Kutztown. You see it happening at Penn State. I mean, Center County right now is just off the fucking charts with and you're seeing this exponential growth in these counties, in Columbia County where Bloomsburg is at, in Berks. Berks is a bit steady, but like in Columbia, in Indiana, in Center County, you're seeing like exponential growth. And you go around and you look at the data board, the Department of Health, the tables that they're setting, the county by county data. You look at pick a rural county, and you'll see exponential growth happening, while counties like Philadelphia, Montgomery, Bucks, Dauphin to a degree are still just chugging along with their normal counts.
Exactly.
It seems like this, and people aren't talking about it, it seems like this explosion is now happening in rural counties, and the colleges that decide to reopen are the drivers of this outbreak. And we all saw this coming.
Yep. Absolutely. And so I want to point out two dynamics here. Right. And I'm going to be very conscious of I'm going to try very much not to get off track here, or not off track, but to kind of go too deep on this, because I want to make, say, basically a couple statements on this. So on the one hand, what Sean said about these taking out these loans and all these kind of financing schemes is absolutely right. Is that this is something that I wrote about in the pages of Raging Chicken Press
7 years ago.
Exactly. Right. Go check out. It's called Wall Street on the Susquehanna. Go read that one. And if you go back to our very first issue, the very first publication of Raging Chicken, has a picture of a nice little carnival taking place, was about this budget fraud that was taking place at state system universities. I wrote about this consistently over the years. That not culminated, but that led to, in part, a couple different avenues of exploration. One, Mike Gambone, Paul Quinn, a bunch of folks from our union hired this guy, Howard Buncis, who does an analysis of finances and higher education, to come in and do an independent analysis of KU's financing. And everything that he found exactly mirrored the stuff that I had been reporting on for years. Right. And he had the kind of numbers, and he showed us how to make sense of this stuff and understand what's going on. And then we had Colleen Bradley. If you remember, it was one of the kind of the first documentaries, that kind of like mini documentaries that I did, their interviews for Raging Chicken. Colleen Bradley, she was the she was a vice president of administration and finance at Westchester University, who saw the same shenanigans that I saw, that I reported on, that I kind of uncovered and was able to kind of say, and she basically saw the same thing happens at Westchester, and she saw that it was coordinated, it wasn't just to her university, but it was being coordinated, and she was being told and instructed by people at Paschi administration in Harrisburg to basically produce two sets of books. One book that they showed to the public, which showed that they're kind of like, they're in crisis, and they need that, they're in crisis and all stuff, all the money, and the other one that was basically showed that the university was kind of like holding its money or containing its money so that it could spend it in the way that it wanted to by manipulating the system, right? And the way that they would do this is they produce budgets that they know there's no way that they're going to be able to meet, right? So they take money in and they say, okay, look, we want to have like whatever, a stadium in 5 years. So we're going to take $500,000 a year. We're going to put it in this bank account. And what they would do in their budget, and what you show on their books, is they would show that as an expense, as if that money had been spent, right? But really what it was doing was sitting in a bank account. So they have the books, and they show the books, and they say, look, all this money is gone, blah, blah, blah. But really that $500,000 this year, the $500,000 next year, that's $1 million, 500, like, again, building up, is sitting there in the bank, and they have chosen to put that into a bank account as opposed to spend it on, say, the academic mission of the university. They use it as a way locally, as a way to cry crisis, right? So that they can lay off faculty members and lay off staff, right? So that they can increase the funds that they get to do with what they want. And there's a lot of complex reasons for why they would do this, in the psychology of kind of like CEOs in our culture and all this other kind of garbage. But that's at its core, that's what it is. That was coupled by what Sean was talking about, is they were using their foundations as a way to take out loans so that they would have this debt that they were accruing, and it would be not beyond, it's called off balance sheet financing. They would basically, they use these nonprofit organizations to take out these loans, and then they would kind of like underhandedly and kind of like under the cover of darkness reimburse those nonprofit organizations for the loan payments, right? We put a stop to that at Kutztown eventually because we exposed it, right? And there was a legal case that came out of East Stroudsburg University that helped lay the foundation for that. But it showed that the university presidents, right, were manipulating their budgets in such a way so they could focus on their pet projects, right? While they were forcing us to work harder with fewer faculty members and larger classes with poor facilities with, my building, you've heard me talk about ad nauseum, with kind of mold problems, persistent health issues on campus, right? Raising of students' tuition and fees, right, in order to accumulate more for themselves so that they could do it, which is a sheer power move, right? And I have to say, and I'll say this here, and I'll say, because I'm done with so much of this stuff. When I see that, what the universities say that, and I see that, number one, that there has been no adequate response from anybody pushing back against this narrative of austerity, that it frustrates the hell out of me. Because I went to our union president at the time, his name Ken Mash. I went to him at the time and actually talked to him and said about the Colleen Bradley case, because I was a little bit upset that the union wasn't getting behind her case and wasn't getting behind what was happening there and exposing the fraud that was at the core of what was happening at the Pennsylvania State System University. And he said to me at the time that he was concerned because he had to look out for all the universities, right? If we kind of like let people know that this was going on, then they might take it the wrong way, and Republicans are going to use this as a way to cut our funds further. When I said, okay, that's fine, but guess what? I said, while you're kind of like out there not worried about what Republicans are doing, they're using that same thing to beat us like a stick. It's not as if we're swimming in the lap of luxury here on the campuses. No, we're at the other end of this. They're beating us with that stick. At the same time, they're lying to the public about it. So the people who are the bad people are the university presidents, the leadership of Pashi, who have been beating us up and lying to the public. And it baffles me to no end to why that is a hard message to get across. That is the truth. And yet, people are afraid to talk about it. And they refuse to talk about it. But, look, I'm sorry. If you want to solve long-term problems, you can't do it by kind of like, playing cute games in public relations. You have to actually deal with the hard, cold facts of this. And that's what it is. The second thing I'm going to mention is real briefly, and then we're going to go to break. What is happening at Kutztown University is what happens at universities, and Kutztown is not alone at this, is when they invest, they think that higher education is about public relations and not about the core mission of the university. When they believe that it is about buildings and not people, when it's about the beautification of campus instead of the kind of like investment in scholarships, right? They believe that the only way that they can keep their universities thriving, right, is if they could put pretty pictures up on billboards and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on new branding campaigns, right? They see that as a good investment of money, a good investment of their time, but not in hiring adequate numbers of faculty members in order to teach our students, not supporting programs that will kind of further support the educational mission of the university. When you get a crisis like this, right? Again, a crisis that you can anticipate. When you get a crisis like this, right? The only way they know how to respond to it is through public relations. And the increasing cases that you get at Kutztown University or other universities across this country who rely upon that model, right, is like, this is what happens when you try to manage a pandemic through public relations, right? Doesn't work. So that's where we are, folks. That's where we are. Yeah. So look, I encourage you. Like, look, nobody listened to me the first time around, right? So I'm pretty sure that nobody's going to listen to me again. Nobody's going to listen to those folks who've been blowing the whistle on this stuff for years, right? Instead, they're going to want to play their cute insider games up in Harrisburg, and I'm freaking sick of it. So, and I've watched my colleagues who have fought tooth and nail to bring justice to our campus, right? Who have fought tooth and nail, right, to expose the wrongdoing, stuff like that. And I've watched their colleagues, right, some of my union colleagues, right, demonize them as being kind of too outspoken or causing too many problems, as opposed to champion the cause of what is right and what is just. And I'm sorry, in that context, we lose. So do with that what you will. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Raging Chicken Press. We'll be back right after this with this week's Last Call. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. For the past 7 years, Raging Chicken Press has brought pull-no-punches, progressive reporting and commentary to the interwebs. Our long-form investigative pieces, stories that no access journalist wants to touch, or rollicking weekly podcasts strive to advance progressive movements and perspectives rooted in the struggles happening across the country or down the street. We've broken national stories and caused our share of discomfort in the halls of power. If we want a progressive future, we need progressive media. And you can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken Press for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. We need to make sure to keep the movement in the media and the media in the movement. Best way you can do that is to become a member of Raging Chicken today by going to patreon.com/rcpress. Thank you for your energy, your encouragement, and your support. Keep up the fight. Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. This is this week's Last Call. We talk space news, we talk beer news, we talk about everything else is on our mind. We'll promise we'll keep it a little quick today, folks. And so we can get out of here. I got to check on my kids, and they've got some kind of appointment. I'm sure that's what I got a call about that I need to take them to. So we got to do that. So anyways, Just some quick notes. One, you heard my space news already this week about they're planning to do some reality show. We'll see what happens in here. There's been all sorts of rumors about this, but
that reminds me of what's that movie? Who played Two-Face in Batman?
Tommy Lee Jones.
No, Kristen. The Kristen
that
Bell
one. Okay. Yeah. What the hell was that guy's name?
Ecker or something? Aaron Ecker.
Yeah, that might be right. Yeah.
The movie that he is Thank You for Smoking. It reminds me of like that Thank You for Smoking scene when they want to get Ben Affleck smoking his cigarettes in space, like as a way to like promote their brand.
Yep.
Like this is exactly what this reminds me of. Like I was thinking about it.
Well, I didn't want to frankly, I just didn't feel like doing too much of the research on this today. But I remember I actually brought this up kind of several weeks ago, right? Probably months ago now, that there was kind of talks about they're filming a first live kind of movie on the space station, and that Tom Cruise is supposedly going to be involved in that. I don't know where that's gone in here, but look, there are people that are angling for this kind of stuff, and they're just looking for that access, and eventually that's going to break through, right? This particular look, they're talking about 2023. They're going to have someone up there. If you look at the cost of sending someone up there, something along in the realm of say $65 million, right?
Person?
So, what's that?
A person or
per person, right? In order to kind of to do all the training that they would need in order to get them up, and the cost of all this kind of stuff, about $65 million. Where the hell is that money going to come from? Right. So that's a little skeptical stuff right there. Number two is that they didn't release too much details, and some folks in, kind of like the space world, like the actual space world, people who actually do space, were kind of a little bit like, we haven't heard anything about this. Right. So that's kind of like points in the direction of like grifters.
Yeah. I thought that it was pretty funny.
Yeah. I loved it. It was just a bit of fun, that I wanted to have this week. But also, like I talked about the free will stuff. They've got a looks great. I haven't had this yet. It's called Rise Up Singing. Released this week. It can release hazy pale ale with Amarillo and Cascade, and it comes in a nice little 5.5 ABV. They've kind of canned up once again the next batch of the wild blueberry cobbler mash, and I have to say it is absolutely delicious. I would strongly urge you, if you're in the Free Will area, to go and check that and pick that up, because it's so good. If you're not in the Free Will area and you're looking to put in a bigger order, they have free shipping. I think it's $100. Maybe it's $75 now. I can't remember. You can check that out by clicking on the link. But that is so good. It's a wild blueberry cobbler mash. It's a sour ale with blueberry, cinnamon, ginger, vanilla, and milk sugar. Comes in at 7.5 ABV. Is absolutely delicious, and it's like this like silk as you're drinking it. It's great. So
have you been ordering Levante beer and having it delivered?
Man. I have to admit it. So let me just say, check out Free Will's got other IPA. It's called In the Balance, the hazy IPA brewed with a base of wheat and flaked oats, hopped with Nelson Sauvin, Citra, and lemon drop. Notes of lemon squares, pina colada, candy, and cotton candy grapes. I haven't had this yet, but I've heard really, really good things about it, so I'm looking forward to that. So yes, Sean, I've ordered Levante twice now. I've got 2 deliveries from Levante.
Is it worth doing? Because I've noticed that they've been delivering to houses across the state, like people doing like home deliveries.
Yeah.
Like through FedEx and stuff like that. And it's just like, do I want to do it or not? And it's like,
that's where I was for the longest time. And I was like, you know what? Let me just see what the hell. I was like, really, I'll be honest. It was like right after, it was like, I don't know, maybe at the beginning of the semester or something like this, or maybe it was even before that. And I was just really down. And I'm like, I just need something to cheer me up, right? Seriously. That's how sad my life is at this point. And so I said, you know what the hell? I mean, it's like, it's a wash. It's going to be free delivery, because I was going to put in I was going to break the $75 ones, because, buy it there, then kind of, drink it over time and that kind of thing. And one, it came quick, packaged really well, and their beer is so good. I mean, it's, and I think it's remarkable about how many different varieties that they're just churning out, like on a weekly basis. So it's, yeah. I mean, look, if you're, I would highly recommend it. Let me put it that way. Nice. What I also really like about Levante, everything that I've had from them, is like, and I know that they're pals with the folks at Free Will. They do collabs. That's how I first kind of got turned on to them, because they had some really good collabs with Free Will, and So I picked up and I got their what's it called? Oh my God, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name of it. Not the glitter parts, but the tickle something or other, which is like super, super good, right? Let me just pull it up real quick, because I'm doing them a super injustice at this point. Tickle parts, it's called, right? Levante Brewing said tickle parts, and I was like, holy crap, this is great. Right? And so I decided to try some of their other varieties. And like I said, this glitter parts, right? So it's like similar to tickle parts, except it's a riff on that. But the lemon meringue glitter parts IPA was just freaking awesome. Right. They've just released one now that is called, it's the same kind of baseline, except instead of the lemon meringue, they've got this one with peach. Apparently this one, this is released before. And again, I know there's people who've been drinking Levante for a while and said, oh yeah, that's a great one. So I'm new to this. And so the peach is new to me. I know it's not new to folks who have been, down in Westchester who have been drinking this stuff before. But that looks absolutely fantastic. Glitter parts, it's a tropically hopped smoothie laced with fuzzy peach and rich vanilla additions. It's got a base of honey sweet malt sprinkled with sticky hops, Citra, Simcoe, Mosaic, and Eldorado, which lends additional fragrance of passion fruit blended with pineapple and clementine. Comes in at 7% ABV. If it's anything like the lemon meringue, it sounds delicious. My mouth is watering as I'm saying that. And then they've got crap like this, right? I don't say mean crap, but I mean like, this one that's coming out, it's called Fruit Fetish, Baker's Dozen. It's an apple cider donut infused collaboration with the friends at Highland Orchards. It's a tart sour ale amplified with semi-dry apple cider grown and pressed at the orchards and finished with sugar-coated apple cider donuts baked fresh at Highland. Comes in at 6.2 ABV. I'm just like, what? I mean, I was looking at that and having tasted some of their other stuff, I'm like, I want that. And this is what I really appreciate about what's really drawing me to Levante too, because before Sean kind of like coaxed me into the world of craft beer years ago, because literally Sean is responsible for the reason why I'm even talking about this.
I've done that to a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, there's no doubt about it. Like, I remember him first telling me that, like, he and his dad would go visit these breweries and it was their hobby. And I'm like, a hobby? Visiting breweries? Like, what the hell is that? Right? And look at me now. I'm like, I want to go to these breweries. Right? But really, Sean, but what I appreciate about them a lot is that they do have a variety of stuff and they have stouts, because before then, stouts were my baseline. Like, and I absolutely love stouts. Free Will doesn't do a whole lot of stouts. Right, they do some kind of like the Ralphius stuff is that come out with here is just absolutely fantastic, but stouts is just kind of not their thing. So I've been kind of missing that in my kind of repertoire, as you were. And I'm forgetting the name of the other stout that I got from Levante before, and it was fantastic, right? And this one looks really good. It's called King of Campfire. It's a s'mores imperial stout, thick, rich stout with say melting Hershey's chocolate, crunchy graham crackers, and plenty of vanilla marshmallow goodness. It's a lactose, and it's comes in at 11.7 ABV. And so for someone who's not as close to Pizza Boy like you are, Sean, is like, I look for where I can get my stouts, right? Because Pizza Boy, without a doubt, is the freaking best stouts I think I've ever had in my life.
I got a 4-pack of Sunnyside up this week.
Oh, man.
So
yeah. I'm still like, hands down, I've never had a better stout than I've had that, especially that one. I'll never forget that the one that you got me that one time, and had that
Polar Vortex.
Yeah. It's just like,
I was thinking about that the other day. So speaking about speaking about Polar Vortex and stuff like that, I've decided to, I think I've hit like a midlife crisis the last couple weeks. So like pretty much like I dropped like the 40 or 50 pounds I gained from like bartending. So I'm back down to like the weight where I was at before I moved to Harrisburg.
Yeah.
And, during that time, my shirts, I've grown old of like the hipster plaids.
Oh my God, Sean.
so like this week, or I've been going more towards like when I was in Germany and like in Europe, I prefer like their style of dressing a lot more than how us Americans take our style.
Yep.
So like I've been actively shopping and changing my wardrobe up over the past few months, over the past couple of weeks.
Oh, do tell.
Well, I mean, not that
Euro trash
wardrobe, but no, I am going full Euro trash. Like I bought a pair of a couple weeks ago, I bought a pair of Adidas joggers that are just like bright blue with the black stripes going down the side.
Oh, you're going full like Eastern European, man.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like I'm gonna be buying a new pair of like Adidas shoes with like I might go with the whites. I'm not sure, the white shell tops.
Oh my gosh, man!
Stuff like that. Like I am going.
Pretty soon you're gonna be like, I finally understand Melania.
I bought a new jacket or a new peacoat this week. That's really nice. It has like, so when I was in Europe when I was in Europe a while back then, bought this like fall jacket, like a nice gray jacket, but instead of having like big baggy arms, it's like it's very tapered.
Yeah,
and I like those tapered cuts more than like just having like shit like hanging down.
Yeah.
So I found a pea coat just like that, and I bought that this week. Literally like the same exact coat that I have, but it's a different like gray material.
Yeah,
it's more. And then I
remember there's a picture of you in Germany like hanging out of a train or something like that with that coat on.
Yes, yes, with that coat. Yeah. So I found a pea coat. Like that coat there is good for like 40-degree weather. Like it's a good fall jacket.
Yeah.
Like it's a good fall coat, but it's not like something you wear when it's like blistering cold out. So I bought that this week. So I am like gone full Euro trash the past couple months.
There you go, man.
And I've been buying band T-shirts left and right too.
There you go, man. There you go.
But this is what the lockdown has done to me. It's given me too much time to look at clothes online and like figure out like what I want to do. Oh, and then I got summoned for jury duty.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
They never pick me.
This is the second fucking time I've gotten jury duty in the past 4 years.
Dude, I went through a period where I was like, I went through a period where I was called to jury duty. I think it was like 5 times in the span of 3 years, and it was, and I would get called up. I get for jury duty, and I have to wait, and I have to call in, and then I wouldn't have to go. So then they would roll me back in, and then like literally like a few months later they would call me again. And I got to the point where I'm sitting there waiting to get called, like if they're going to actually bring me in, and the cases got solved. So like I had to go home. So like with so the last time in Dauphin County does jury duty, like we sat in the dungeon of the courthouse. The big open room. Yep.
For like a week straight. Like, and, either you got called or didn't get called. And it was just totally inefficient waste of time. Basically, if you're someone like me or like Andy Hoover, who like very progressive left wing when it comes to like criminal justice issues, you're pretty much like sitting down there the whole entire time. And you're sitting with people who, like, as I said, like 4 years ago when I was on jury duty, there are people who sit in the jury pool who don't get picked. And thank God they don't get picked for jury. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so what they're doing this week now, or this jury duty.
Now, there's people actually who will show up to jury duty and like let their freak hang out so they don't get picked, right? I mean, there's even those folks. Seriously.
Yeah, like, so I ran into a public defender that I know that from Pizza Boy, and he's just like, so I was like, dude, I got picked for jury duty. He's like, oh, you can get out of that. You got picked. You did this like 3 years ago. I was like, no, it was 4 years ago. And he's just like, sorry, it looks like you got to go. And I'm just like, yeah. I was like, listen, I'm like, how is this all set up with Dauphin County? Because I said, like, if I show up and people aren't wearing masks and shit like that, I'm just going to turn out, like, go to fuck home. Like, I told him that, and he's just like, no, like, he's like, actually, it's been pretty well. He's like, the system that they came up with this time is a lot more efficient and friendlier than like the previous system. So what they're doing is everyone comes in on Monday, you fill out your questionnaire, then all the judges and all the judges and all the lawyers do the jury selection process for each case. Mm-hmm. On Monday, either get picked or don't. And then, if you get picked for a trial, everyone's dismissed on Monday, and you come back that day of the week that your trial is.
Yeah.
For jury duty. So instead of just like languishing in the basement, I'm like, oh, that's actually a pretty good system. And they're like, yeah, we should have been doing this the whole entire time.
Yeah, actually, Lehigh County, when I got called so many times, when I was still up, kind of up there. Although I did get called for some other for different cases, but it was pretty good actually. It was like got called from Philadelphia too as well from a number of times for kind of like grand jury stuff, but it was a kind of a call-in system was the first round, so that you would call in the night to see if it was necessary to kind of show up for potential jury stuff. And then the couple times that I did have to show up and kind of go in there and showed up. And the only reason that we had to say, we would have been basically, we would have gone into jury selection, and it would have been a very similar system to what you just described. And I didn't find it to be problematic at all. But, like, again, I don't know. I kind of, I have to admit, I romanticize that stuff a little bit. So, like, I'm the kind of person that if I got picked for jury duty, I would kind of take that extraordinarily seriously, right? So there's part of me, it's like, I'm willing to do my civic duty, right? I'm not one of the people who's like, oh, how do I get out of jury duty? I'm like, no, I would actually totally do that, and be fine with it. They'll just never pick me because, they're going to ask me questions and I'm going to give them honest answers, and they're going to be like, nope, check, get him out of here. Whatever. Anyways, I got to get back to my kids, man. So I think we're gonna have to call it a day. And got anything planned for the weekend?
Not really. I think I'm just gonna hang out, enjoy the weather. The weather's being beautiful.
Yeah,
it's dipping down. Like, highs are in the 60s now.
Yep.
And I took out the AC unit in my office area, which is great. I still have the one upstairs in my window just in case we have like one of those freakishly warm nights.
Yep.
But other than that, I'm looking forward to the fall weather.
Cool, man. I might actually take a drive up the mountains. Last time I was up there, I was building all this deck stuff up there, and I left a bunch of my stuff up there that turns out that I need down here. So I might just take a ride up there, just kind of pick it up and come back, and then just to do something different and see different stuff, because I'm doing a little stir craziness at this point. So,
and I got a new bed this week.
Oh,
so.
You got a new bed. There you go.
Yes, my parents treated me to a bed.
There you go.
I knew, like, my mom was going to give me money towards it.
Yeah.
But, like, with my car, not having a car now, I guess, like, because, like, they
sounds like
me out
I'm not going to have a car until I get everything I need for my thing.
Well, I think what I'm going to do is, like, forego getting a new car. Like, it's not a priority right now. I'm about, like, 6 or 7 weeks in without having it, and I mean, I'm not too upset about it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've been able to switch things around. Like, we're planning a vacation next year that we're supposed to do this year. And so, like, we're going to go to Monument Valley, Zion. We're taking a road trip out there with my parents. It's going to be like 3 weeks long. So I told my
assuming
mom,
it's not a
like,
fire zone at that point.
Yeah. Well, it's a desert, so.
Yeah, but it's not surrounded by desert. The desert is surrounded by things that can burn.
Yeah. But we are, but I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I think I told my parents, like, I'm more interested in, like, I'm still saving on my money, but I'm more interested in spending that money towards camera equipment and stuff like that I actually need.
Yeah.
Versus, like, dumping money into a car and having a car payment. So.
I hear you. Well, cool, man. Well, hey, have a good weekend, and everybody out there, please enjoy this weekend. As Sean said, I think in good parts of our area, it's going to be a really nice weekend. And the weather's been kind of finally. This is like my favorite time of year. Once we get to the weather like this, so I absolutely love it. Stay safe out there, everybody, and we'll kind of keep you kind of posted on further developments. I'll let you know through kind of social media and other things about what when kind of Out the Coop Live is going to run and what the structure of that's going to be. And I hesitate even kind of talking about some of the things that I'm thinking about in my mind, just because the two past attempts of kind of the reboot have not worked out quite right. So I don't want to kind of promise something I can't deliver on. I've done enough of that already. So, all right. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Thanks for sticking with us this week. Remember, you can become a member of Raging Chicken, become a patron of Raging Chicken as little as $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress. And you can help support movement media, keep the movement, the media, and the media in the movement. Become a member of Raging Chicken, become a patron of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Go to patreon.com/rcpress today. Stay in the struggle. Stay safe. Let's keep it going. Stay sane. I know I need it. See ya!
Putting a national lockdown, stay-at-home orders is like house arrest. It's other than slavery, which was a different kind of restraint. This is the greatest intrusion on civil liberties in American history. we have epidemics and pandemics. This is a very serious one, a grave one, but they come, and you know, just because something is a medical crisis, it doesn't give a complete blank check to executive rule, which is, yes, doctor, you might be right, but just think of all the collateral consequences and the costs of that. And that is not science, okay? It is the generalist and the people and the representatives of the entire community that should be making these balancing acts. It is not dictated by science. So all this nonsense about how this is dictated, something is dictated by science, is nonsense.